Don't miss the awesome Naruto stories my sister creates. Her last channel was hacked, so to stay in the loop, please subscribe to her new channel. It would mean a lot to her, and you won't regret it. Hello to all lovers of lemon scenes. I invite you all to my boosty so you can watch your favorite Naruto What If stories in complete comfort. A subscription to Naruto Lemon, the first video with a full lemon, is already on my boosty channel. Dare! Creating a small bolt of lightning on his right hand, he touched Iwazo. An electric shock passed through Iwazo's body. Iwazo lost consciousness. If Naruto had invested chakra, the enemy would have died. His internal organs would turn to mush. Inoki looked at his grandson with pride. He was surprised by his strength. He expected to see a spectacular battle, but here the battle was one-sided. Inoki ordered his Umbu to take Izawa and Raiba to the hospital. Approaching his grandson, Inoki handed over a bandage and a Jounin vest. Naruto was surprised at the Jounin rank. He thought he would get the Chunin rank. Inoki, Naruto, your strength is equal to that of a Jounin. You won 2 elite Jounin without even trying. Naruto, this girl is part of the elite? She is weak, at most she is at the Chunin level. Inoki, I'm thinking of doing a certification. For the next 2 months, Naruto completed C-rank missions. Naruto, grandfather, give me a rank A mission already. I'm already tired of doing low-rank missions. Robbers are too weak opponents for me, I asked my grandfather, Naruto. He was already tired of going to organize the robbers. He completed such tasks in a few hours. In 2 months he has already completed 50 missions. Inoki exhaled tiredly and looked at his grandson. Seeing the serious look, he began to look for the scroll. He knew there was no point in arguing with Naruto. His persistence knew no bounds. Taking out a red scroll, he handed it to Naruto. Inoki, your mission is to eliminate the unknown Nuke Nin who is terrifying the land of the forest. Naruto, grandfather, I asked you to give a mission of a higher rank. There will be a lot of people there, some robbers. Inoki, idiot. This is a B rank mission. Complete the mission quickly. Or do you not want to follow the Tsuchikige's order? Naruto, how sorry you will be, sir, Naruto said playfully. And he left the Tsuchikage residence. Jumping across the rooftops, Naruto began to study the essence of the mission. Uzumaki didn't understand why this was a B-rank mission. As he thought, it was definitely robbers without chakra who had captured a small village. First of all, he needed to stop by home to get a katana. Arriving home, he saw his sister who was cooking something. Kuratsuchi, hello Naruto. Naruto, hello Kuratsuchi. Sorry, but I don't have time to talk right now. The old man gave me a mission. And began to climb to the 2nd floor. After sealing his katana, he took several sealing seals. In his free time, Naruto studied Fuinjutsu, and Kaito brought him scrolls. In Fuinjutsu, he progressed very well. He could already use B-rank seals. Before Naruto left, Kuratsuchi was waiting with a ladle in her hand. Kuratsuchi started telling him to be careful on the mission. The brunette was very worried about her brother. She said these words every time when Uzumaki went on a mission. Kuratsuchi, today I'll bake a cake. Just don't be late. Otherwise I'll be offended, and pouted. Naruto just laughed at her action. Naruto, let's argue. If I'm late, then you'll have to clean up for a whole month. If I lose, then I'll clean up accordingly. Well, I agree. Or are you afraid? Kuratsuchi, come on, I agree. I'm sure you'll be late. And shook hands, Uzumaki. Leaving the village, Naruto quickly headed to the land of the forest. The land of forests, Japanese, Mori no Kuni, is a country full of impenetrable, dense forests, making the river the only way to travel through this country. Once upon a time, shinobi and ordinary residents and children lived in this small village. Now it's hard to call this a village, at most the name of devastation suits it. Houses were destroyed and flooded. There were human limbs lying everywhere. Naruto was shocked at what he was seeing now. There was destruction all around, craters, broken trees, corpses, heads, arms, legs, etc. An unprepared person would have succumbed to panic long ago and tried to escape from this terrible place. Uzumaki began to slowly think. He understood that it was definitely not the robbers who did this. Firstly, shinobi lived in this village, and not weak ones. Naruto already understood that the village was destroyed by a rather strong shinobi, or it was a group of ninjas. Hearing someone's steps, Uzumaki turned his head towards the sound. A muscular shinobi emerged from the burning house. He had a unique appearance, resembling a shark, including blue-gray skin. And on his back hung a huge sword. This is the swordsman of the fog, thought Naruto. Kisame, O Uzumaki, Naruto himself, or should I call you Oanoki, Hoshigaki said mockingly. Naruto, you'll pay for everything you've done. You killed a lot of innocent people who did nothing to you. Each of them had dreams and goals, and you scum just killed them. Uzumaki spoke with anger. Kisame, what are you talking about? Remember, I don't give a damn about human lives, for me killing people is like entertainment. And I ask you to keep your mouth shut, otherwise you never know, you'll die. An angry Naruto ran at Kisame with his katana. Finding himself next to Kisame, Uzumaki wanted to strike horizontally, but Kisame countered with his samahata. Naruto jumped away from his opponent. He was terrified of the sword. He could never have imagined that there were swords alive and with intelligence. Yes, and feelings told me not to touch his sword. Kisame didn't wait for Naruto, and abruptly found himself next to him. He hit the enemy. Uzumaki placed his katana in front of him. If not for his eye, he would not have had time to defend himself. This is the first time I've seen eyes like these. And even if I do, I'll get money for it, thought Kisame. Kisame, stop running away, coward. Show your strength. I heard you are considered the future Tsuchikage. But how will you become Kage if you are afraid of me? Naruto, and without even running away, two clones came out on opposite sides, and another clone jumped out of a branch from behind. This is your end. Having surrounded the enemy, each of the clones released a huge ball of fire. Four large fireballs quickly rushed towards Kisame. Uzumaki had already begun to rejoice at his victory. By placing several seals, Kisame created water walls in front of him. Fire and water created a small column of steam. Kisame wanted to quickly destroy the enemy. Taking samahata firmly, the swordsman ran towards Naruto. The sounds of metal could be heard throughout the area. Uzumaki and Hoshigaki moved very quickly. Their battle was like a dance. Naruto, with the help of Uzugano, was only able to keep up with Hoshigaki's speed. He's good, Kisame thought. After parrying the attack, Naruto wanted to pierce his opponent's stomach. Hoshigaki stopped the katana with his bare hand. Naruto was very surprised. He tried to pull the katana out of Hoshigaki's hands. But Kisame held him tightly. With his free hand he hit Naruto with samahata. Naruto flew several meters away. While flying, he felt his chakra reserves instantly decrease. Why did the chakra reserve drop so sharply? Or is it his sword that can absorb chakra? The thought raced through Naruto's head. Uzumaki felt a terrible pain in his side. When he let go of his gaze, he saw a not deep wound from which blood was coming. Naruto cursed to himself. Kisame did not wait for Naruto, and used the water shark projectile technique. A clot of water in the shape of a shark rushed towards the lying ninja. I won't have time to dodge this attack, Naruto thought. Concentrating, several scarlet chains flew out from his back, which instantly destroyed the shark. Rising from the ground, Naruto pointed the chains at Kisame. Hoshigaki easily fought off the chains. Not getting the desired result, Uzumaki removed the chains. He already has a lot of chakra left, and the chains already waste a lot of chakra. Naruto, Katan demon mirrors, fire mirrors began to appear around the swordsman. That's all. I told you that you will pay. It's time for you to die. 10 by 10 balls of fire flew out of each mirror. Does he seriously think these guys can kill me? Thought Kisame. There were several small explosions. I can still feel his chakra, but how? He couldn't survive after this technique, thought Naruto. A slightly battered Kisame emerged from the smoke, his wounds healing right before his eyes. Monstrous regeneration, the thought flashed through Naruto's head. Kisame, my Samahata sword, doesn't cut. He tears it to shreds. Now you will find out this too, the hard way. With one quick jerk, the swordsman appeared next to Naruto. And he raised Samahata to strike. Quickly, Naruto thought. Uzumaki himself, without understanding, began to pour more chakra into his eyes. A red armor formed between them. Kisame was surprised. He noticed that the armor was similar to the Uchiha Susanoo. This is a warrior, Naruto said to himself. But the next second Samahata absorbed this armor. He can absorb this too, Naruto thought, and flew away. Kisame, it's time to finish with you. You're just a disgrace. Hoshigaki said, folding the seals, Sueton, giant water prison, and created a huge dome of water. Uzumaki, meanwhile, had already entered hermit mode. And tried to get out of the dome. No matter how he tried, he failed. The dome stupidly followed him and did not allow him to get out. But this is already interesting, he already knows the hermit mode, thought Kisame. Kisame merged with Samahata and became like a shark. His speed, reaction, strength, regeneration have greatly decreased. He began to move quickly and hit hard. With each blow, Samahata absorbed Sen chakra. Uzumaki could not dodge the blows. Every minute, the air ran out. Kisame, watch out! And hit Naruto with all his might. He completely absorbed all natural chakra. I have no other choice, Naruto said to himself. Having released all 20 chains, he began to heat up his chains. Uzumaki wanted to heat up all the water using his chains. He wants to heat up the water? What an idiot! And carried it towards Naruto. Finding himself next to his opponent, he hit him in the face. Even Yuzugan couldn't see Hoshigaki's movements. Am I really going to die like this? Forgive me, Naruto thought before passing out. A 26-year-old man with ashen hair walked through sunny Konoha. On his face was a black mask that covered half of his face. On the way, children ran up to him to ask for an autograph. He was very famous in his village. Did every resident know who he was? And whose son is he? In his hands, he had a small bag. And we don't know what's inside yet. Kakashi was now heading to the Uchiha quarter to meet with Kushina. Before entering the quarter, he was stopped by guards. Kakashi calmly answered, he came to Kushina Uzumaki. The guards immediately let him into the quarter. Walking around the block with Kakashi, each Uchiha greeted or waved. The Uchihas were the only clan where they did not give away guests. The Uchiha can be considered the strongest clan in Konoha and in the world. In second place were their enemies Hyuga. Approaching a one-story building, Kakashi knocked on the door. Someone's steps could be heard outside the door. A girl with red hair opened the door. The face is framed by short strands of hair, and a brown hairpin is attached to the left side. Kushina usually wore a green sleeveless sundress with a white zip-up blouse, short sleeves and a stand-up collar, and a dark gray bracelet on her left arm. On his feet he wears standard gray shinobi sandals. Kushina, hello Kakashi. Do you want something from me? Or did something happen to you? Kakashi, hello Kushina-san. I need to talk to you urgently. Let's talk better at home, otherwise you never know. Hataki said, looking to see if there were any extra ears. Letting him into her home, Kushina led him into the living room. There wasn't much furniture in the Uzumaki house. The wallpaper was gray and the floor was wood. For Kushina, only comfort was important. She didn't see the point in buying there, but not the necessary items. Sitting down on the sofa, Kakashi looked seriously at Uzumaki. Kushina, go talk. Kakashi, Kushina-san, we thought that Naruto Uzumaki might be your son. You are very similar in appearance and character. You should have noticed. And we can check using a DNA test. Kushina at first dulled her gaze, but then looked at her interlocutor with misunderstanding. Kushina, I understand everything. Kakashi, I myself have already noticed all the similarities. But suddenly he's not him, but just like me. And where can you even get his hair? Kakashi took out 2 transparent bags from the bag. The first one had red hair, and the second one had a stick with drool on it. Kakashi. These are his samples. While he was sleeping, I took his samples. Well, what are you going to check? You just think, if he turns out to be your missing son, that would be wonderful. Kushina, okay. But we will go to the Uchiha hospital, to my friend. Leaving the house, Kushina closed the door behind her. Dressed in work clothes, Mikoto led Kushina and Kakashi to the laboratory. Kushina began to prepare all the instruments. She took a few hairs from herself and gave a sample of her saliva. In what seemed to her like 5 long minutes, the answer would be ready on paper. Mikoto, that's it. And looked at the result. The smile on her face immediately disappeared. She couldn't believe it. The Uchiha stood like a robot, holding the drain on her hand. Mikoto realized that if she found out the truth, she would be in great pain. Kushina, Mikoto, what are you worth? Uzumaki said, waving in front of her friend's face. Mikoto, yes. Don't worry, Kushina, the Uchiha said anxiously. Kushina, come on, what's there? And snatched the piece of paper from the Uchiha's hands. Kakashi watched them silently. He was sure that Naruto was Kushina's son. Uzumaki stood for about 5 minutes peering at the test results, where it was written, DNA test result. The affinity is 99.9%. She ran out of the laboratory belonging to the Uchiha. She walked towards her house. She needed to be alone. The members of the Uchiha clan were surprised to see Kushina in tears. They tried to approach her and ask what happened. But when Uzumaki looked at them with anger, they immediately left. She reached her house and opened the door. Uzumaki leaned against the wall and began to sob. All her life she thought that her son was dead or missing forever, but he was alive all this time. And he grew up to be a very good person. Kushina sat on the floor and roared with such force that her ears were wrapped in a tube. She wanted to return him right now, but if she left the village, Minato definitely won't let her go, knowing his character. If she leaves, she will be made a nuke-nin without consent, or liquidated. She would leave the village when the Chunin exam came around and she would meet him there. Uzumaki knew for sure that the country of stone would participate in the exam. She loved him like a son, but for her Naruto was more than a son. Kushina understood how she felt towards Naruto. For her, he was the ideal man, handsome, smart, kind, strong. Next to him, Uzumaki felt like a little girl, and that's what Kushina liked. In the Uzumaki clan, the man was considered the head of the family. If he rejects her feelings, she will not be offended. The main thing for her is that her son is next to her. We'll see you soon. A young man with red hair was lying on a hospital bed. The guy was covered in bandages, he could be called a mummy. There wasn't even a living spot on him, every part of his body was covered in bandages. 3 shinobi were sitting on chairs next to him. Inoki's face showed concern. He looked at his grandson, with pain in his eyes. A brunette sat next to the old man, sobbing into her boyfriend's chest. Kuratsuchi didn't want to see her brother die. Deidara put his girlfriend to sleep and looked at his friend with regret. If it weren't for the Tsuchika Jumbu who passed by the battlefield between Naruto and Kisame, that Uzumaki would already be lying in a coffin. When they saw Naruto in critical condition, Inoki almost had a heart attack. He was immediately admitted to the hospital. All the doctors of the village of Stone fought for his life. Naruto had already been out for 5 days. Naruto's POV. Too bright. I thought as I opened my eyes. The first thing I saw was the white ceiling. I slowly began to remember what had happened to me recently. I should have died, the thought flashed through my mind. I wanted to move, but feeling pain throughout my body, I stopped my torture. Kuratsuchi immediately jumped on me, crying. I could barely contain myself so as not to scream in pain. I tried to calm my sister down. My grandfather came up to me and gave me a slap on the head. He deserved it, he said to himself. But then he hugged me too. I looked towards Deidara and smiled, and he smiled back. The end POV. Inoki, Naruto, from today you won't go on missions alone. You are now part of team number 5. This is not discussed. Naruto, I understand you, grandfather. Kuratsuchi, brother, now you will clean up. You lost the argument, the brunette said, laughing. Naruto, yeah. Grandfather, when will I be discharged? Inoki, only in 4 months. You have broken bones in your arms and legs, and torn muscles. The Uzumaki just exhaled in defeat. He wanted to go to training faster. He considered himself weak. If he did not become stronger, he would never be able to protect his loved ones. Remembering the last fight, he was terribly ashamed. He lost so shamefully. He wanted to take revenge on Kisame. Inoki, okay, let's go, we need to rest too. Just don't do anything stupid. And began to get up from his seat. Kuratsuchi, okay brother, we'll go if you want to eat. Then call the nurses, they will feed you. Like a child, the girl said with a grin. Naruto just rolled his eyes at her words. He never liked that kind of banter from Kuratsuchi. Deidara, rest, friend, and patted Naruto on the shoulder. Naruto, oh, you. Uzumaki hissed in pain. Closing his eyes, Naruto smiled contentedly. Nurse, Naruto-san, we are discharging you today. You have fully recovered. All bones and muscles have healed. Naruto, finally. Uzumaki exclaimed. He was already tired of idleness. All these 4 months were for Naruto. I lay on the bed all the time and took tests. He never liked to sit in one place. In their free time, Kuratsuchi, Deidara and Inoki visited our hero. Kuratsuchi and Deidara were on missions, and Inoki was busy with Kage affairs. He couldn't wait to go to the training ground and start his training. Nurse, I will advise you to start your training only in a week. If you immediately load your muscles, they will be damaged. Exo, we still have to wait a whole week, Naruto thought displeasedly. Gathering all your clothes. Naruto left the room. On his way out, his relatives shot him. They congratulated him on his discharge. First of all, they decided to take a walk and talk. Oh Inoki, Naruto, you will start missions only in 2 months. You understand me, right? Naruto, yes, I understand. In these 2 months, I've gotten back into shape. Grandfather, will I be on the team with my sister? Inoki, yes, but what? Naruto, Yes. Didn't just ask. Kuratsuchi, what are you against? The girl asked with a manic smile. Naruto, no. What are you doing? I was just wondering, Uzumaki said, waving his hands, I'm even glad that I'm on your team. They walked like this until the evening. Anoki was the first to leave, he needed to go to the residence. Kuratsuchi wanted to spend the night at Deidara's today. Naruto slowly walked home. A week later. Leaving the house. Naruto rushed to the training ground. The villagers were surprised at how fast Naruto ran. The first thing he did was start warming up. Warm-up lasts no more than half an hour. Taking 5 kunai for each hand. Naruto did a somersault and threw a kunai in the air. Only 7 out of 10 hit the bullseye. I need to practice more, Naruto thought. Naruto sat in the lotus position and began circulating chakra throughout his body. Sharply opening my eyes, I could see a red whirlpool in them. Rising from the ground, Naruto began to slowly drive chakra into his eyes. A red shield formed around Naruto. Uzumaki didn't want to stop there, sending more chakra flow into his eyes. Now a transparent humanoid with a shield has appeared. Wow, Naruto thought. Uzumaki wanted to pour more chakra into his eyes, but suddenly felt a terrible pain in his eyes. Falling to his knees, he held his eyes, blood flowing from them. I think I went too far, Naruto cursed to himself. Naruto sat there for another 10 minutes until all the pain went away. Naruto didn't want to train Uzumaki just yet, you never know what would happen. He didn't want to lose his sight. Naruto began to practice his kenjutsu, taijutsu and ninjutsu. He did not spare himself in training. During training, Uzumaki learned to enter into transformation with a fox. Naruto and Era merged into one body, all 7 tails appeared, his nails grew several centimeters, and black mustaches appeared on his cheeks. This mode increased reaction, speed, physical strength, and technique. Naruto once tried to combine this with the hermit mode, his body almost burst from chakra, fortunately Kaito was nearby. Uzumaki sometimes trained to mix the 2 modes, under Kaito's supervision. Became a Rankei Fuinjutsu master, this is not the limit. Well, in the world of summoning there were Uzumaki scrolls, he didn't tell anyone about the scrolls. He must not give or tell anyone. Otherwise the foxes will break the contract with him. He put one interesting seal on his katana. Scarlet chains he didn't train them often. He was able to place a reflective seal on his katana and use the Uzumaki reflection technique, a technique in which Naruto blocks an opponent's attack by using his katana. The effect of the enemy technique is immediately neutralized by converting the chakra entering the weapon into the natural transformation of Raitan, which is instantly reflected back at the opponent. Since the attack is reflected suddenly and unexpectedly, it is extremely difficult to avoid. Uzumaki could already easily create a transparent warrior with a shield. He pulled out his taijutsu and kenjutsu. Most of all, he trained his eyes, he did not yet know the full power of Uzumaki. This is how all these 2 months passed. Naruto was already eager to take on missions. He wanted to see what his sister and friend could do in a real fight. I think I'm already late for my meeting with the team. The 5th team was in Anoki's office. Naruto, Kuratsuchi, Deidara were sleepy. They were forced to get up very early today. They were supposed to have a day off today. Naruto had already been going on missions with him for 2 months. Uzumaki saw the strength of his friends. Their strength was on par with Chunin. The 5th team carried out not-so-serious missions. Anoki, and so I called to tell you some important news. Every year the Chunin exam is held in one country. The exam is a kind of test to test the abilities of genin. If a genin performs well, he will be considered for promotion to Chunin. And you are the only team from Stone that will protect the village and show the true strength of the new generation. The exam will take place this year in Konoha. The genin immediately perked up when they heard about the exam. Deidara and Kuratsuchi were happy, they could finally become chunin. Naruto was not happy because of the exam, he was already a jonin, and he didn't need that. Uzumaki wanted to meet Kushina. He hasn't really figured out his feelings yet. Maybe she's just a friend to him, or more than a friend. Akatsuchi, Tsuchikage-sama, when does the exam start? Anoki, in a week. And you will not go slowly tomorrow to Konoha. And I will arrive at the third stage. The main thing is don't let him down, and don't embarrass yourself, and what's more, and he began to take something out of the nightstand. And he took out a small folder, there is information here about your opponents, and gave it to Naruto, you can now take a last walk in the village. Our heroes went to coffee to have a snack, they didn't eat anything. Having received their portions, they began to eat in silence. Nobody opened their mouths. Everyone was in their own thoughts. Kuratsuchi, do you think we'll pass? The girl asked, wiping her hand on a napkin. Naruto, I don't know, but I won't ask. I will hope that you win. No wonder you trained every day. And turned his gaze to the blonde, what do you think, Deidara? Deidara, In the exam I will show all my strength. I will show everyone what I have achieved in training. And I will show everyone true art. Naruto and Kuratsuchi laughed quietly, their friend never changes. Naruto, oh, I think we need to look at the characteristics of our opponents, and printed out the green folder. Kuratsuchi, I can't wait, the brunette said, rubbing her hands. Opening the folder, they began to look for stronger opponents. The first person they saw strong was a representative of the Hyuga clan. Deidara. And so Niji Hyuga is part of the junior branch of the clan. Hisashi Hyuga's father. Considered the best student of his class, a student of Might Gaia. His Byakugan is better than those from the main branch. After his father died, he hated everyone. He was only interested in power. He wanted to get it in any way. Kuratsuchi, Hyuga. It's better not to fight him in close combat. The main thing is to fire at him from far away. Otherwise it could knock out all the tankets. And interrupt the flow of chakra. Kuratsuchi, oh, here's another one. Menma Namikaze, Uchiha. Son of Minato and Hokage. Possesses one futon element. I learned all the basic techniques. Knows all his father's techniques. Naruto, you can win in close combat, the main thing is not to forget Hiration, not everyone can counter this technique. As for the Sharingan, I'd better not say anything. The main thing is to knock him out before activating the Sharingan. I'm sure that he was trained by very strong Uchihas. Deidara, guys, I found one creepy guy. Naruto and Kuratsuchi saw in the photo a 14-year-old boy with short red hair. There were black bags under the eyes. Gaara was nothing in his tree. He is considered a demon and an abomination. His father was, he even gave the order to his Umbu to eliminate his own son. His inner evil prevents him from sleeping. He has absolutely protection. Relationships with family are just terrible. His sister and brother just walk around him. Kuratsuchi, too creepy guy, God forbid he becomes my opponent. They sat like that until the institution closed. All this time they studied the characteristics of everyone participating in the exam. Soon we will meet again. Konohagakure no Sato, village hidden in the leaves, also known as Konoha, Kakurazato, located in Hai no Kuni. As one of the Godaikoku shinobi, Konohagakure has Kage as its leader, known as the Hokage, of which there have been 4 in the village's history. Konoha is located deep inside the forest at the base of a mountain known as the Hokage Monument, which is engraved with the faces of everyone who has ever held the position of Hokage. mainly shown as the most powerful Kakurazado. Konoha spent many years in relative peace and stability. Very talented shinobi were born in this village, who in the future became legends of the shinobi world. This is the only village where there are many strong clans. 3 shinobi stood guard at the gate. There were 2 brunettes inside the booth. A 27 to 28-year-old man was sitting on a chair. His hair is combed and always covers his right eye. He wears a bandana-style protector, along with the standard Konoha ninja gear covering his chin, as well as a combat vest. A 27-year-old shinobi stood leaning against the wall with his eyes closed. He has long, tousled, black hair and dark eyes. The bridge of his nose is bandaged and there is light marking on his chin. He wears standard Konoha shinobi gear, complete with a protector and combat vest. Man, where are they? I'm already tired of sitting here in the morning, he said in a sleepy voice. Man, you read my mind, Izumo. In general, why should we meet them? We should have an entrance today. Our red-haired heroine stood outside. She looked into the distance, waiting for someone. Her gaze was alarming, her hands were locked. Kushina had been waiting for this day for a very long time. Uzumaki will finally see his own face. The guard looked at the girl and grinned. Kotetsu, what do you think, Kushina-san? You also have a day off today. You, through your connections, could have avoided this event. Kushina exhaled and turned around. Kushina, this is a good chance to show our village to guests from another country. And I myself love such events. I have no connections. I'm doing this for the village. And turned around, her back to him. Kotetsu just chuckled and stared at her butt. He liked her character, such ladies always need a man who will dominate her. And he saw himself in the role of her husband. It's chakra. I can feel it. With the help of sensors, she felt her son's chakra, which was not even visible on the horizon. Guests from Stone approached the gates of the village. The guards immediately jumped out of the booth and stood next to the girl. Kushina, welcome to Konoha. We hope you enjoy our village. And we wish you good luck in the exam. But first we will take you to the Hokage. And then we'll arrange a tour, and she smiled sweetly. She could barely restrain herself from attacking Naruto with a hug. She didn't take her eyes off him the entire conversation. Akatsuchi, hello Kushina-san. And we are also happy to visit your village. Kushina escorted the guests to the residence, and there she led them to the Hokage's office. During the journey, our guests toured the village. Naruto wanted to start a conversation with Kushina, but he couldn't. The girl could not properly connect 2 words. Residents examined the arrivals. Some girls cast lustful glances at Naruto. They noticed the similarities between Naruto and Kushina. And they thought that the demoness had gotten pregnant from someone and was hiding her demon. Knocking on the door, they heard, "Come in." Kushina, Hokage-sama, they are here. Tearing his gaze away, he looked at the guests. Minato invited Akatsuchi to sit next to him. And the rest on a leather sofa. Minato, Kushina, get out of here. The man said in a rude tone. The guests were surprised by the tone he addressed the girl. Naruto flashed his Yuzugen. He didn't like the tone in which he spoke. Kushina, okay, Hokage herself, Uzumaki said with disgust, and left the office. Minato, and good luck to you in the exam, he turned to the 2 genin. Namikaze sometimes glanced at Uzumaki during a conversation. He reminded him of someone, but the blonde couldn't remember who. Coming out of the office, Kushina met them there. Deidara, well, let's go. I have long wanted to see all the sights of Konoha, and looked at the girl with a smile. Kushina, yes, but I have one request. Can I take Naruto-kun from you? Akatsuchi, okay. But who will lead the tour for us? Kushina, you don't have to worry about that, and she created one clone. We all went, I'll return him to you, and taking the guy by the hand, she dragged him along with her. The stone shinobi looked in surprise at the retreating figures. Naruto wanted to unhook all the way, but Kushina's grip did not allow it. He wanted to know where she would take him. The girl dragged him to her home. Naruto, Kushina-san, what was that just now? And what happened to you today? But the next second he was in the arms of a girl. Kushina, Naru. Son, sob. How I waited. Sob. This moment, the girl said crying. Naruto was in a trance from what he heard. Naruto, son? I think you are confused. I can't be your son. Kushina, it's true. You are my son and your mother. Naruto pushed the girl away from him. And he looked at Kushina angrily. Naruto, then where were you? Why did I live in another village? And why should I believe you? The guy asked with an elevated tone. Kushina, after giving birth, we were admitted to the hospital. In the morning you were no longer there, then I searched the entire hospital and Konoha. You can't even imagine how I suffered then. I went on missions every day, in the chance that I would find you. When I first met you, I felt not alone. I saw myself in you, but I was afraid that in your friend you would not turn out to be my son. Not long ago I did a DNA test, the relationship was 99.9%, I was happy. Naru. Just trust me please. If you don't believe me, the result is lying on the table. The girl was sitting on the floor and sobbing like a little girl. Naruto walked past her, taking the paper. He started reading. The Uzumaki did not feel the lie in her words, but he needed to make sure. As he read, his eyes widened, and when he read, he realized that she was right. Naruto felt guilty towards the girl. Naruto, Mom, Uzumaki said quietly. And quickly approaching Kushina, he hugged her. Mom, forgive me. Forgive the fool. All my life I wanted to meet you, Mom, but silent tears flowed from my eyes. Naruto could smell her hair. Kushina, son, I'm not offended by you, I understand you. It's you who forgive me, I couldn't give you motherly love and care. I'm sorry. Naruto, I don't blame you. Databee. Kushina, indeed my son. Databane, the girl said a little more cheerfully. Naruto didn't know what to do with his feelings right now. On the other hand, she is his mother, and on the other hand, she is a beautiful girl who he likes, but she is his mother. And it wasn't pretty for Naruto. He suppressed these feelings. Naruto lay on his mother's lap. Kushina played with his hair, giving him pigtails. They laughed and rejoiced. Kushina felt happy for the first time. Naruto, Mom, who was my father? Uzumaki asked his question. Kushina laughed nervously. Kushina, Naru, well, how can I tell you, you don't have a father. I impregnated myself, I didn't like anyone then, and I don't like anyone now. Except you, and I always wanted a child. Naruto, oh that's it, I didn't think it was possible. They sat like that for another 20 minutes. Kushina clenched her fists and exhaled. Kushina, Naruto, you know, I have to tell you something, and your cheeks are on fire, you should know this. Naruto, so what should I know? Kushina, well. You know. You are a handsome, smart, strong, kind guy. You are the dream of all women. Naruto, Mom, let's get down to business. Kushina, I like you as a guy. She said in one breath. Naruto jumped out of the sofa, he didn't expect to hear this from his mother. But somewhere deep down in his soul, he was happy. Uzumaki looked at his mother with bulging eyes. Naruto, Mom, what are you doing? This is wrong. You can find someone else. Kushina folded her hands near her chest and looked at her son seriously. Kushina, Naruto, in our clan, it's normal for a mother and son to fall in love with each other. And this even has a plus. The child will be purebred. Naruto sat down on the couch and began to think about her words. He was a little glad that Kushina loved him as a man and not as a son. But he was afraid of society's opinion, what they might think. Kushina, Naruto, answer me. How do you feel about me? Naruto, well. I love you like a mother. Kushina, I'm not talking about that. I meant, do you like me as a girl? Just answer honestly. I will not be offended. Naruto, to be honest, then, yes, and my face turned red. I knew it, the girl said to herself. Kushina's face grew into an ear-to-ear smile. Approaching her face, she looked at his blue-dark eyes with love, and pressed her lips to his. Naruto was in shock for the first seconds. Uzumaki tried to move away, but Kushina threw him down and did not let go. But then he began to answer, which made Kushina happy. Naruto kissed the girl tenderly, which she was only happy about, but she was a strong girl, so she increased the pressure of the kiss, which Naruto was surprised by and continued, her lips were so soft. But he was tired of it, so he ran his tongue over the girl's lips, and then through her teeth. She understood what the guy wanted and let his tongue into her mouth. Naruto's tongue explored her mouth and danced with Kushina's tongue. And her hands were already playing naughty on her body. Naruto realized that he had begun to go too far and stood back. Both began to breathe quickly. Kushina raised one of her eyebrows. The girl thought that he did not like the kiss. Naruto, sorry Kushina, but I need to think. Just wait for my answer, and ran out of the house. Fine. Deidara and Kuratsuchi walked around Konoha for a whole week and studied it. They walked accompanied by Kushina so as not to get lost. The genin noted that Konoha is larger than the land of stone. After getting dressed they left the room. Before leaving, their mentors wished them luck. Leaving the living room, they slowly walked to the academy. This was the only team with only 2 members. This has never happened before, during the Chunin exam. Upon arrival at the academy, they went to look for room 305. They didn't search for long, the office was on the 2nd floor. Deidara immediately felt that something was wrong here. There were a lot of dissatisfied genin standing outside the office. They shouted to be let through. 2 Chunin stood in front of the door. And they weren't allowed in. Kuratsuchi, I'll deal with them now, but Deidara stopped her. Deidara, Kuratsuchi is here, something is obviously wrong. Kuratsuchi, what do you mean? This is the office we need. These 2 upstarts just need to be punished, and she cracked her fists. Deidara, Kuratsuchi, we were here not long ago, we were given a tour. As I remember, 305 is on another floor. Kuratsuchi, are you saying that this is some kind of genjutsu? Deidara, maybe. Kuratsuchi, then we need to help everyone. After all, they also want to pass this exam. Each of them had been waiting for this moment for a long time, it would be a shame if they fell for this trick. Deidara, no. They are our competitors, don't forget that. It will be better if they are all cut off. Kuratsuchi, but. Deidara, no buts. Let's go upstairs, otherwise we'll be late. Deidara and Kuratsuchi quietly walked between the crowd. 2 Chunin noticed this. There aren't that many talented shinobi this year. Rising to the top, the genin met Akatsuchi. The jounin congratulated them and wished them luck. Entering the office, Deidara and Kuratsuchi noticed a lot of genin from different countries. There was an eerie aura in the room. Everyone released their ki. The shinobi looked at the newcomers appraisingly. Deidara Kuratsuchi felt uneasy from such views. The genins from the stone moved a little further away from everyone. Deidara began to look at everyone. At the very last desk, he saw the Kazekage's son. But in life, he's just as scary, the thought flashed through the blonde's head. They stood there until they heard a noise. Turning his head towards the rest of the genin, they noticed this picture: a guy with white hair was lying on the floor, and broken glasses were lying on the ground. And hovering over him was a shinobi from sound. Kuratsuchi wanted to intervene, but her partner stopped her. Deidara, no need for Kuratsuchi. We don't need problems. It's their business. Let them figure it out themselves. Kuratsuchi, okay, the brunette agreed reluctantly. A middle-aged man appeared in the center of the room in a white haze. His clothes were black. There were a lot of terrible scars on his face. Ibiki, and so are backbiters. They quickly sat down in their seats, the man shouted. Everyone immediately sat down in their seats. They felt the key that came from the examiner. That's good, Ibiki said, looking at the shaking genin. Ibiki, my name is Marino Ibiki. I am the first stage examiner. Now I will tell you the whole essence of this exam. Listen to me carefully. You have exactly 1 hour to complete the written test. Each candidate receives 1 point for each correct answer. For each incorrect or missed question when checking the test, a point is given. If no team member receives any points, the entire team will be disqualified. If this is not the case, then all team scores obtained are added together at the end of the exam, maximum 30, so the test is for the entire team. If we find cheaters or deceivers, they will be disqualified along with their comrades. The 10th question is asked orally only at the end of the first stage. Let's start. Kuratsuchi and Deidara wrote, relying on their wits. The questions weren't that difficult. The Hyugas and Uchihas activated their eyes and began to write to them. Son of the Kazekage used his third eye. Yamanaka used her clan technique, soul transfer. Some genin tried to write off, but they were immediately kicked out. Ibiki, 46, 89, 99, 101, out. The genin they named emerged from their places and headed towards the exit. When the time came for the last question, the genin put down their pencils. And they looked carefully at Ibiki. Marino Ibiki asked the 10th question to the candidates. He also adds that even if the candidates answered all 9 written questions, but at least one of their teams could not answer the 10th question correctly, then the team's total points become 0. If at least one team member cannot answer the 10th question, then the entire team can never take the exam again. If a candidate is not confident, he can raise his hand and refuse, in which case the whole team becomes eligible to take the exam the following year. The genin began to ponder Ibiki's question. So half an hour passed. During this time, half of the genin left. Need to finish. Ibiki, who is left here, you passed. Seeing the confused looks, he said, because the 10th question is another test, because all candidates who decide to answer this question automatically receive the right to pass to the second stage. Thus, he is something of a choice for every shinobi. Each genin looked at the man with a murderous gaze. A woman flew into the window and attracted attention. Her hair is pulled back into a ponytail on top of her head. The clothing consists of a beige coat with purple in the seams and side pockets, brick-colored miniskirts and dark blue belt. Under her coat she wears mesh underwear that extends all the way to her hips. On her feet she wears light gray shin guards and black sandals. She wears a small pendant on a chain in the shape of a snake around her neck, and a watch on her wrist. She wears the Konohagakure protector on her forehead. Seeing her figures, the genin began to whistle. And what they shouted from their seats. But the girl ignored these animals. Anko, my name is Mitarashi Anko, I am an examinado of the second stage. Tomorrow at 1400 hours come to the Forest of Death. After that, all the genin began to disperse. Deidara and Kuratsuchi ran to the hotel to tell them that they had passed the first stage. Naruto thought for a whole week. He has already accepted what he will say. Naruto left the living room and went to look for the girl. He created several clones to find it faster. He didn't look for her for long. One of the clones found her in a grocery store and instantly passed on the information to the original. Uzumaki immediately ran there. When he saw the girl, he froze, his body simply trembled. Clenching his fists, he began to approach her with quiet steps. Coming close to her, he poked her in the side. Kushina was already angry. The visitors immediately began to leave. They knew what Kushina could do when angry. Kushina prepared a blow. Turning around, she wanted to hit this immortal. Seeing Naruto, her ardor instantly disappeared, her eyes widened in surprise. Uzumaki didn't expect to see him. Naruto, hello my love, and kissed the girl tenderly. Kushina she didn't know what to do. But realizing that they were now being looked at, her face turned the color of pepper. Residents and shinobi were on the outs. They already thought that Kushina would now kill this impudent person. It's not for nothing that she was nicknamed Bloody Habanera. But instead, Kushina blushed and stood like a defenseless girl. Kakashi watched this, his Sharingan almost flew out of his eyes. The Jounin did not expect such an outcome. In the crowd stood a brunette, standing there was a smile on her face. Kushina let go of her head, hiding her face. Kushina, Naru, you're a fool, the girl muttered and pointed the guy's finger. Naruto leaned over and said, Kushi, when you blush, you look really cute, and kissed her on the nose. Uzumaki melted from his Kushi, but then blushed even more. Kushina, come with me. And taking him by the hand, she dragged him along. Naruto and Kushina went shopping until the evening. They bought food and new clothes for the girl. Now our heroes were sitting on the sofa and chatting nicely. The girl was sitting on the guy's lap. They told each other interesting stories. Kushina, Naru, don't you think your friends will worry about you? Naruto, I warned them that I won't be there today, don't worry. The girl smiled sweetly and pressed herself close to the guy. Kushina, Naru, I need to take a bath. When she reached the door, she turned around. Naru, please wash the dishes. The guy wanted to say something, but the girl was no longer there. Here. Uzumaki cursed to himself and headed to the kitchen. Two scarlet eyes flashed in the darkness. So this is how it is. Enko, and so brats, now I will explain to you the rules of the second stage, and so you will have one scroll of heaven, then you must get a scroll of earth, if you have a scroll of earth, then you must get a scroll of heaven. You will have 5 days to the passage of this stage is clear to you. You must reach the tower. Seeing the nods, she began handing out one scroll to everyone. The goal of this stage is to survive in a forest full of dangers, accompanied by the seizure of the second scroll in battle from the other team. Opening scrolls is prohibited until you arrive at the tower with both scrolls. Otherwise, participants will be punished and disqualified. If at least one team member dies or is unable to continue the challenge, then this is considered an automatic disqualification of the entire group. After arriving at the tower, having both types of scrolls, the team members must open them. After the reveal, a chunin appears from the scrolls and informs the team of passage to the next round. Enko, but first you must sign this document. And for what? Someone asked from the crowd. Enko smiled bloodthirstily and answered, if you die, then Konoha will not be to blame, it's only your problem. At this statement, the genin began to shake in fear. Having signed this document, everyone was sent to the gate, each team had its own entrance to the Forest of Death. Enko, let's start. And the gates opened. All the genins ran in all directions. Team number 5 was moving straight towards the tower, they hoped that they would find someone along the way. So they moved until their path was blocked by Konoha genin. Give us your scroll or we will kill you. A young man with brown hair demanded. His distinctive features, showing his kinship with the Inuzuka clan, are his vertical slitted pupils, reminiscent of the shape of animal eyes, and red fang-shaped markings on his cheeks. He also has sharp front fangs visible. Kiba-kun, maybe it's not necessary. There are 3 of us, and there are 2 of them, it won't be fair, the girl with dark blue hair that reached her waist said modestly. Her distinctive features were her lavender eyes. She stood behind her comrades. Hinata, it doesn't matter. This is the Chunin exam. We shouldn't feel sorry for anyone. If there are 2 of them, it's none of our business. At the second stage, we must obtain the opposite scroll, by any means. So, don't whine. And do your job. Said a rather tall shinobi for his age. He has tousled, thick dark brown hair. The young man wears a gray-green jacket with a high collar that hides his face, with a zipper and pockets, brown pants and blue sandals. Deidara and Kuratsuchi were immediately wary, they knew their characteristics. So the strength was not equal, they understood this. They can cope with Inuzuka and Hyuga, but there is very little chance with Aburame. You need to watch out for his bugs. Deidara created small explosive spiders, noticeably for everyone. Deidara, Kuratsuchi, I'll take these 2, he pointed to Inuzuka and Aburame, and you take that girl. Kuratsuchi, I got you. But be careful. Kiba, ahaha, you're too confident blonde. We are the best graduates of this year, you can't beat us. And don't forget that we are from strong clans. Better give me the scroll in good faith. Shino, Kiba speaks correctly. So, give up. Deidara, here it is. To you. The blonde exclaimed. And he ran away in the opposite direction. Kiba, Shino, let's go punish him, and looked at the girl, Hinata, take care of her. Hinata, I won't let you down, and activated my Dojutsu. Deidara stood opposite his opponents. He has already prepared surprises for them. After shouting, cats, explosions occurred. Kiba and Shino jumped away to avoid being turned into mush. Kiba, Shino, I'll handle him myself. Just stand there and watch me humiliate this upstart. Shino, if you're in a bad state, I'll intervene. Kiba, that won't happen, Inuzuka chuckled and ran towards the enemy. And his dog ran after him like a tail. The teenagers clashed in close combat. Deidara simply began to avoid attacks and even block some blows. Deidara grabbed Kiba by both hands and jumped forward, drove his knee right into Kiba's face, and then kicked him in the stomach with all his might. Kiba flew 2 meters away and Deidara began to choke a little, and at the same time fight off blows that were powerful for him. Suddenly finding himself in front of the dog owner, he grabbed him by the hair and drove his knee into his face. The Inuzuka showed a sign not to interfere. Sensing danger, the blonde leaned back, and in vain Akamaru flew in front of his face. Deidara grabbed Akamaru by the tail and sent him after Kiba. Kiba, Akamaru, come on. He gave the pill to his dog. Akamaru turned into a copy of the dog lover. The clone jumped onto the owner's back and took the stance of the Inuzuka clan, Getsuga. With this technique, Kiba and Akamaru rotate at great speed, which creates the impression of a rotating drill. They rushed away from the blonde at very fast speed. Deidara immediately jumped onto a tree branch. Where he stood a few seconds ago, there was a rather large impact crater. Kiba was angry that he didn't hit, and he also had a bump on his head. Kiba, oh, you. Well, hold on, Shikyaku no Jutsu. The dog walker and Akamaru got on all fours. And they suddenly disappeared, out of sight of the enemy. They appeared in front of Deidara, and with a kick they sent him to the ground. The blonde slammed into the ground. He couldn't even see Kiba move. When he tried to stand up, he felt pain all over his back. He fell from quite a height. Back pain bothers me. Kiba, your end has come. and punched him in the face. Shino just chuckled, he didn't think the fight would end so quickly. And watched as his friend beat Deidara. Kiba? Ahaha, you know, it even feels good to hit you, and I hit the enemy with my elbow, thereby knocking out several of his teeth. There were no living places on Deidara's face. His whole face was bruised, and his nose was bleeding. Deidara, and spat in his face. Kiba, oh, you creature. And began to beat him even more furiously, and we told you to give the scroll back, but you were stubborn like a sheep. Heh, when we're done with you, we'll take care of that brunette huh, and he began to breathe quickly, and raised his head, he was already tired of beating the blonde, his fists were bleeding, we need to finish with you. And let go of his head. Letting go of his gaze, he was shocked, his head was missing, there was clay there. What's clay? A thought flashed through Kiba's mind. A bright glow appeared and an explosion occurred. Kiba and Akamaru were thrown to the sides. Shino became wary, he was now wondering what happened to his friend. When all the dust had settled, Aburame could see a small hole on the ground. And on the sides lay the dog and Kiba. Akamara was missing one paw, and the owner's entire right side was crushed, his right arm was completely missing. Shino, Kiba shouted and ran up to him. Exo, if he dies, then I won't be able to look Kurenai-sensei in the eyes, we need to end the fight quickly. And taking out the scroll, he sealed it from his pouch. I don't feel his chakra. Maybe he outwitted us, but he himself is fighting with Hinata, no. Shino was now very worried about his friend. Running up to the unconscious Akamaru, he instantly sealed him. Where are we going? The fight is not over yet. Shino looked up. A huge white bird was flying in the sky, and Deidara was standing above it. Aburame was shocked. But he was still worried about Hinata. When did he manage to create a clone? And how did he end up there? Shino asked himself questions. Deidara, aha, I fooled you ahazas. I spent a lot of chakra maintaining the clone, but I need to finish with him quickly, Deidara said to himself. Shino called on his bugs, he wanted to tear the blonde into pieces. Aburame wanted to avenge his friend. Shino, I'll destroy you, you little thing. Insect tornado, Aburame made a tornado of bugs and sent it at the enemy. Deidara jumped and aimed the bird at the tornado. The bird instantly exploded when it collided with the tornado. Droplets of blood stained Shino's clothes. I'll definitely lose in close combat. So I need to use my trump card, the blonde said to himself. And after putting the seal, sheep, nothing happened. Shino wasn't going to wait and wanted to run, but he couldn't move. Letting go of his head, he saw pale hands holding his nails. Is going on here? And began to panic. Shino was going to destroy them with the help of beetles. His hands were instantly wrung. And they attached a strange seal that blocked his chakra. Thank you Naruto, your seals helped me, Deidara mentally thanked. Looking back he saw Deidara's clone. Shino couldn't say anything, he was in shock. Seeing the surprised face of his opponent, the blonde laughed. Deidara, now I'll tell you everything heh. Before entering the forest, I created several clones from clay. They were next to me all the time, only underground. Without the clones, I definitely wouldn't have one. And falling to one knee, he began to breathe quickly. I'm already running out, the blonde said to himself. Shino didn't know what to say. He wasn't even allowed to move a finger, he couldn't even summon beetles. He was now thinking about Hinata. Aburame was very worried about her. Raising his head, he looked seriously at his opponent. Shino, I have one request. Deidara, let's talk. And fell to his fifth point. Shino, don't touch Hinata. Please. Deidara, okay, I will fulfill your request, and gave the order to the clone to knock him out. Finding the scroll they needed, he trudged towards Kuratsuchi. Shabby girls stood in the clearing. Kuratsuchi and Hinata had been fighting for half an hour, neither of them could knock each other out. Kuratsuchi avoided close combat the entire time. And Hinata, on the contrary, tried to bring her opponent into close range. I have too little chakra left. We need to defeat this girl quickly. And help Kiba and Shino, Hinata said to herself. Kuratsuchi, Doton, stone fist, the girl covered her hand with stone, watch out. And she rushed towards Hyuga. Hinata wanted to use Kaiten, but she simply didn't have enough chakra for the technique. And when she met the stone fist face, the girl flew away and passed out. Limping Deidara reached Kuratsuchi. The girl began to treat him. Having patched up the blonde, they slowly walked to the tower. There were large craters and two sides where the ground seemed to be torn in half. The 7th team from Konoha fought with the team from Sound. It's been a long time and neither of them have won. They held on only by willpower. Menma and Sasuke used all their techniques, but their opponents countered almost everything. A pink-haired girl was sitting on the ground, she was crying because of her weakness. During the battle, she was unable to do anything. God, I'm just a nonentity. I'm weak. The girl repeated these words. Zaku and Dosu beat their opponents to a pulp. They won because of their combat experience. They deactivated the Kyuubi's chakra using a seal. Having completely knocked out Menma and Sasuke, they, shabby, looked at the girl who asked them to stop. Dosu, what are we going to do with the girl? Zaku, we can have some fun with her, we didn't pass this exam anyway. Sakura looked at the guys with fear. Hearing their words, she pressed herself against the tree. Sakura, you won't touch me, will you? The girl asked with fear. Zaku, aha now, you will see it. And looked towards his partner, Kin, do you know what to do? The girl made a facepalm. Kin, those idiots. Just finish your business quickly. We still need to meet him. Approaching Sakura, she grabbed her by the hair and pressed her face to the ground. Haruno couldn't do anything out of fear. And tears came from my eyes. Kin broke the girl's arms and legs. A soul-tearing scream was heard throughout the forest. Sakura begged them to leave her alone. But at her request, the Sound people laughed. Kin left, the girl did not want to see all this. Approaching the girl, Dosu sat down on his knees and with a sharp movement tore off her pants. And Zaku looked at her from above. Two lovers sat in a clearing and watched the sunset. All this time they did not leave each other. They learned a lot about each other. Naruto was worried about one question: how did he end up in the land of stone? Naruto, Kushi, do you know how I ended up in the land of stone? The girl shuddered at the question. Kushina, Naru, I don't know myself. This also bothers me. Naruto, do you have any guesses? Kushina made a thoughtful face. Looking at her face, the guy smiled. Even when she thinks, she looks very cute. Kushina, I think either you were kidnapped or just planted on the Tsuchikage. But the first fact, I can refute, the strangers would have been immediately detected. But I am 100% sure that you could have been planted. You know how the residents and the Hokage treat me? Naruto, Kushi, now you have me. I will never leave you. And hugged the girl tightly. He didn't want to see her tears. Do you think this was an order from that blonde guy? Kushina, it could have been Minato or those old senile people, and remembering the elders, she wrinkled her face. Naruto, Kushi, how do you like the idea of moving to the land of stone? They won't look at you there. Well, will you come with me? Kushina pulled away from the guy and let go of her head. Kushina, Naru, I can't. I promised Mito-sama that I would protect Konoha. If I leave, they will make me a nuke nin, but I don't want that. I don't want to live in fear. They will definitely pay a lot for my head. Naruto, but why? Everyone here hates you. Get that stupid promise out of your head. Kushi, this village has brought you a lot of pain. Understand this already. Kushina, I can ask you the same question. Naruto, what do you mean? Kushina, why do you live with those who destroyed our clan? And the one you call your grandfather killed children, women, men. Naru, tell me why, do you live with them? Naruto, what? Naruto, what? The guy asked with confusion. He was shocked by this news. Kushina massaged her temples and exhaled. Kushina, you don't seem to know. Now I'll tell you everything. Hidden Whirlpool Village, Yuzushiogakure no Sato, literally meaning, village hidden by whirlpools, was a shinobi village in the land of whirlpools. Our ninja were known for their fuinjutsu so powerful that it led to the complete destruction of a village during the Second Shinobi World War. We were then attacked by the three great countries of Cloud, Fog, and Stone. The shinobi of Yuzushiogakure destroyed 80% of the alliance. But we were overwhelmed by numbers. We sent a message to Konoha, but they didn't have time, Yuzushio was already destroyed. Mito Uzumaki managed to save me then, if not for her, I don't know what would have been done to me. Now I have to keep my promise. I must protect Konoha, she was our ally. I know they hate me here, but Konoha gave me a roof and food. And that's why I will protect her, no matter what. Naruto sat with wide eyes. He couldn't believe what he heard. Holding his head, he shouted that this was a lie. His grandfather couldn't do that. Why didn't he kill me then? Why did he accept me as his own? He could have turned me into a soulless doll for murder. But he didn't. I'm sure my grandfather couldn't do that. This is just deception and lies, they are just trying to make my grandfather a murderer, the guy thought. Uzumaki had already begun to bite his fingers, thinking he was dreaming. Seeing the guy's behavior, the girl closed her eyes and exhaled tiredly. For half an hour she heard, he couldn't do that. Anoki's grandfather is not like that. Stop lying. Kushina could barely restrain herself so as not to beat the guy for such behavior. She understood that this news was a shock for him. If they had told her this, she would not have believed it either. Seeing the girl leaving, the guy asked, Kushi, where are you going? He asked, stuttering slightly. Kushina, I'm home. I've already told you everything, and now our relationship depends on your answer. If you're late for dinner, I'll kill you. And headed towards the exit of the park. Kushina was not pleased to say some words, if he chooses the stone, then she will not turn away from him. And will always love him. Kushina wanted to see how Naruto would behave now. Naruto had already been sitting in the clearing for 2 hours. There were not large holes in the ground, and several trees were destroyed. Uzumaki threw out all the accumulated emotions. The clothes were all tattered, the hands were bloody. Naruto wasn't going to believe it. He was now wondering where he could find all the information about the attack on Yuzushio. It definitely won't be in the library, but it's definitely in the Hokage's archives. But Naruto didn't want to go into the archive, you never know what would happen there. Think, who can know everything about our clan? And hit his head against a tree. Naruto slapped himself because of his stupidity. How could I forget about the foxes? They clearly know more than me, and began to make a seal. A column of smoke appeared in the clearing, and a fox with 5 tails came out. Kaito looked at his friend and waved. Kaito, why did you call? Naruto, I have one question. This concerns my clan. Kaito, go ahead, I'll tell you everything, and sat down next to Naruto. Naruto, I want to know who attacked our clan. Just answer honestly. Kaito immediately frowned, he knew very little about the attack on Yuzushio. Not even all foxes know about the attack. The same sage knows nothing. Kaito, difficult. But I have some guesses. Naruto, go talk. Kaito, as I know, Uzushio was surrounded by very strong barriers. He did not allow strangers in. If someone was about to enter the village, the barrier immediately warned. Konoha and Uzushio had a peace treaty. Only trusted persons could enter the village. Fog, cloud and stone couldn't just destroy the barrier, which means they had a spy from Konoha who infiltrated the village and completely removed the barrier. And as I know, Konoha did not have time to help, but it seems to me that they specifically did not want to help them. The battle then lasted a week, and from Konoha to Uzushio it was only 3 days. Conclusion: Konoha betrayed Uzushio. This is my personal opinion. Naruto was in prostration. Kaito's story was more plausible. But he did not believe that his grandfather killed his clanmates. Naruto, you want to say that Konoha could betray Uzushio, but why? Kaito, scrolls for sure. I'm sure they wanted the scrolls. I never liked this Hiruzen, he was a vague type. But his elders were simply repulsed. Naruto felt angry towards Konoha. He wanted to destroy her right now. He never forgives traitors. Naruto, I was once in the ruins of Uzushio, and I found a room underground and there were scrolls. Why didn't they take all my clan's knowledge? Kaito, are you talking underground? There seems to be a strange barrier there that only allows the blood of the main branch to flow into it. That's why he didn't let them in. Naruto, am I from the main branch? That means Kushi is from the main branch. Kaito, well, you went through the barrier. Naruto, I see. We seem to have fallen behind our topic. Kaito, Naruto, I'm sorry, but I don't know anything else. But there is someone who knows everything about your clan. Naruto, and who? Kaito, he might be living in the ruins of Uzushio, I don't know for sure. Look for him there. And went back to his world. The Uzumaki clicked in displeasure. He needs to drag himself to Uzushio again. We need to go home quickly, otherwise Kushina is already worried. Naruto was immediately allowed into the quarter. The guards knew who he was. Walking along the road, he met the head of the Uchiha clan. He was covered in bruises and was holding a dirty bouquet in his hands. They met their gazes. The Uchiha looked at the Uzumaki with contempt. Arrogant turkey, thought Naruto. Standing in front of the door, Naruto knocked quietly. The door was opened for him instantly. And they hit him on the head with a frying pan. The guy fell to one knee, holding his sore head. Kushina was about to scold the guy, but when she saw the state he was in, she gasped. Kushina, Naru, what happened to you? Did you fight with someone? Speak quickly, Databane. The girl said, clinging to the guy. She was very worried and blamed herself for leaving him alone. Naruto, I'm fine, and picked up the girl. Now let's go eat, I'm very hungry. After eating 3 bowls of ramen, Naruto thanked his girlfriend. Kushina, Naru, what did you take? The girl wanted to know the guy's final answer. Naruto, nothing. The girl jumped up from her chair and grabbed the guy by the collar. And tears were already welling up in my eyes. Kushina, what do you mean nothing? Do you seriously want to leave me alone? Fool, I love you. Naruto, you misunderstood me. After the exam, I will go to the ruins of our clan and find answers to my questions. Kushina, but why? There's nothing there. Letting go of Naruto, she sat down on a chair. Naruto, Kushi, just believe in me. I promise, I will take you out of this hole, and sitting down on one knee, I looked at her eyes, do you believe in me? Kushina, Ugu. But can I go with you? I haven't been to Uzushio for a long time. Naruto, I'm all for it. But what will Minato say? He clearly won't let you go. Kushina, I'll tell that idiot that I'll get the scrolls from there. Then he will definitely let me go. Naruto, of course, didn't tell Kushina everything. On the way, Deidara and Kuratsuchi did not meet anyone. This was to their advantage. Tsukuri was very tired. The first thing they did when they entered the tower was open the scrolls. Their sensei appeared from there. Akatsuchi congratulated them for passing the second stage, and escorted them to the second. When they got up they saw a team from Sand, 3 teams from Konoha, and a team from Cloud. Upon arrival at the tower, Kakashi took his student. Hirono did not tell anyone about the incident in the forest. She was afraid of Sasuke. What if he turned away from her and would never communicate with her? The genin were asked to line up. Minato Namikaze himself appeared in the arena in a clap of thunder. Minato, I congratulate you on passing the second stage. 16 out of 50 participants remained, but I expected that there would be less than 16, Anko thought. Minato, but I have one piece of news that you definitely won't like. The genin are a little tense. Due to the fact that there are so many of you, we are announcing elimination battles. The 8 strongest genin will advance to the third stage. The genin began to feel angry. They are already tired, but they still want to give them a fight here. By releasing Ki, Minato calmed everyone down. Minato, we will make a compromise for you, you are given 2 days of rest. During this time, you can prepare for battle. Do not leave the tower, otherwise you will be disqualified. The Jounin began to take away their students. A man stood in the arena, looking at everyone present with indifference. To be honest, he didn't care about this exam. He was going to relax all these days with his girlfriend and heal his health. The man was not in the best condition as he had unexplained chronic coughing spells and bags under his eyes. However, he was to become the proctor for the final stage of Chunin Shuriken, so he was tasked with overseeing the qualifying matches to determine who would advance to the finals. But the Hokage's order is the law. Man, my name is Gecko Hay8, I will be your examiner, and he coughed into his fist. I'll ask you to look at the scoreboard, and with a hand gesture he showed a black screen that was attached to the wall. The names of pairs of opponents were chosen randomly. Before each fight the name will appear on this scoreboard. And coughed again, that's all. Let's get started now. The first opponents will appear, and how could I, and hit myself in the forehead, and there are still no rules. You can kill, but it's better not to. If you see that you are already losing, then give up. I can intervene if the outcome of the battle is already clear. Names appeared on the screen, changing quickly. Some genin gulped and were worried. The sound of birds chirping was heard. 2 names appeared on the scoreboard. Kankuro versus Ino. Gecko, I'll ask the named genin to stay, and the rest go up to the balconies. Having risen, our heroes began to watch the battle. Kuratsuchi, Akatsuchi-sensei, where is Naruto? I thought he would come. And squeezed the railing tightly. Akatsuchi, I think. But he wasn't allowed to finish. Deidara, Kuratsuchi, you should know. She seems to be a girl, but she doesn't know obvious things. Kuratsuchi, what are you hinting at? The brunette asked angry. Deidara, didn't you really see how that red-haired girl was looking at Naruto when we arrived? She clearly had a crush on Naruto, and Naruto himself was looking at her all the time. Maybe they are a couple, just hiding their relationship. Kuratsuchi, are you saying that they are dating? The girl asked in shock. But the silent Akatsuchi intervened in their conversation. Akatsuchi, I saw them recently, in the park they were holding hands and kissing. It is quite possible that they are a couple. Kuratsuchi started jumping on the spot, she was happy for her brother. She wanted to know more about Kushina. Kuratsuchi, Deidara, after the qualifying round we'll have a double date, do you understand me? Deidara, yeah, the blonde said lazily. And the battle between the girl and the guy was already ending. Kankuro didn't let his opponent do anything. The sandstone mocked Ino throughout the fight. The guy didn't use his dolls, he didn't see the point, a nonentity like her has no right to see his dolls. Yamanaka tried to use her clan's technique, but her opponent kept moving. Ino and her techniques were useless in a one-on-one fight against a strong opponent. She is only strong as part of Ino Shikacho. The blonde was covered in dust. Her face was dirty. The girl lay on the floor many times. Taking out his sword, which was poisoned, he rushed at the exhausted girl. He wanted to kill her, such weaklings should not live in the world. When there were a few steps left, 3 elite jounin appeared next to the puppeteer, and instantly spun him around. None of the jounin wanted trouble from Inoichi. If the Harem of the Yamanaka clan dies, her father will cause a scandal. Gecko, winner of Dog no Kankuro, I ask you to go up. Ino was taken away by the doctors. Kankuro climbed up with a grin on his face. Names appeared on the screen. Tsukuri Deidara vs Darui. Kuratsuchi, good luck day. Be careful with him, we didn't see his file in the folder. Akatsuchi, he seems to be the right hand of the Raikage, I'm sure he's very strong. I wish you good luck Deidara, and patted the blonde on the shoulder. Deidara nodded to his comrades with a smile on his face. And he slowly descended. And his opponent was already waiting for him. Darui looked at his opponent with irritation, he no longer liked the blonde's behavior. Uzumaki sleepily opened his eyes and stared at the white ceiling, but after a couple of seconds he felt some strange heaviness on his body. Naruto lifted his head from the pillow and bent it down slightly, seeing that Kushina was sleeping on him, using it as a pillow. Sighing, he began to look at her sweet face and began to twirl her soft red hair on his finger. This action would have continued like this, but the girl opened her eyes 5 minutes later and looked into the dark blue eyes of the guy opposite, who meanwhile continued to study her hair. Blushing deeply, the girl pressed herself into the guy's chest. The guy was simply amused by this reaction. Lifting the girl by the chin, Uzumaki softly kissed her on the cheek. Naruto, good morning. And smiled tenderly. Kushina, and you too, and yawned sleepily. Naruto, now let's go have breakfast or lunch, and looked at the clock, it was already 12 o'clock. Kushina, Naru, go take a shower for now. And I'll prepare a surprise for you, and smiled in advance. Naruto, I'll wait impatiently, and got out of bed and began to get dressed. The girl began to look at the guy's bare torso. Kushina kept glaring at Naruto when he was without outerwear. She restrained herself from lashing out at him. The girl looked at Naruto with a predatory gaze. Seeing her look, Naruto grinned and headed towards the exit from the bedroom. Standing under warm water, the guy very carefully washed his beautiful red hair. A stream of water flowed over his sculpted body. Naruto was more or less a beefy ninja. The Uzumaki shuddered, feeling someone else's hands on his back. Kushi. Naruto turned around and saw such a familiar face. The red-haired girl was perfect. She was wearing a long lace bralette and a black lace thong. The girl seemed to be devouring the guy's genitals without taking her eyes off. It was big enough. Naruto had never seen Kushina so naked. He was a little shocked. Naruto, Kushina, what are you doing here? But instead of answering, the girl covered the guy's lips with her finger. Kushina, tch. And removing her finger, she covered his lips. A blond man with a Hokage cloak sat on a chair. He had a cup of coffee in his hands, sipping it as his eyes fell on the two ninjas who stood opposite each other. Deidara and Darui had already stood there for several minutes, burning through each other. Tsukuri prepared several explosive spiders specially before the fight. The first, as it is not obvious, Darui could not stand it and rushed towards the enemy. Deidara also did not stand still, he ran towards Shinobi Cloud. Having clashed in close combat, both opponents moved at maximum speed. In taijutsu, Deidara was not inferior much. Darui was faster and his blows were very strong and accurate. Sharply drawing his katana from behind his back, Darui wanted to strike vertically, but Deidara had his kunai in front of him. At his actions, Darui grinned and kicked the blonde away. Darui, remember, I won't feel sorry for you. I will do anything to become a chunin. You better give up, or I'll take your life. Deidara just grinned and took a fighting stance. He would never give up, especially to this man. Darui, so you chose your fate, and ran angrily towards the blonde. The clanging of metal could be heard throughout the arena. The two opponents fought without sparing themselves. In Kenjutsu, Darui was head and shoulders above Deidara. The blonde could only defend himself, wounds appeared on his body every time. Kuratsuchi was worried about her boyfriend. She saw that it was very difficult for him to fight. The stair railings were already remembered. She winced when the blonde received new wounds. Having placed a block, Dei jumped back. He had long ago realized that he could not defeat Darui in close combat. Throwing the kunai further away from himself, he put his hands in his pouch. Seeing his actions, Darui began to prepare for an attack. He was slightly shabby. Tsukuri took out small explosive spiders and threw them towards Darui. Darui did not understand at first what kind of creatures they were. And he just stood there. These spiders won't do anything for him. When explosions were heard, the Cloudman immediately became wary and went in the other direction. Bokuden, Darui thought. Tsukuri threw small bombs at the enemy. Deidara so wanted to use large-scale techniques, but there is Kuratsuchi and other innocent people. He didn't mean to hurt them. Darui deftly dodged. He waited until Deidara ran out of his clay bombs. He stuck the katana into the floor and sent out a bolt of lightning. An electric discharge was carried towards Deidara. Deidara went to the left, the electric discharge destroyed the wall. Darui, maybe you should start fighting seriously already? With such techniques, you won't even win a genin, and began to put together seals. Raiton, Black Panther, Black Lightning acquired the appearance of a panther, it strikes the enemy, paralyzing him with an electric discharge. Deidara responded to his technique with Doton, Wall of Mud, and built a small wall of mud in front of him. The wall barely got tired of the power of the Black Panther. Deidara already wanted to relax a little and think through his plan. But out of the corner of my eye, I noticed laser beams that were rapidly flying towards the blonde. He managed to get away, but one of the beams pierced through the blonde's shoulder. "Suck, take it, your hand is numb," the blonde cursed to himself. "Darui, maybe you'll come out? I don't want to get your hands dirty." Deidara, never. "I'll knock you down with my left hand," and I began to quickly make seals with one hand. The genin and jounin were surprised. At 14 years old, being able to make seals with one hand is amazing. Deidara created clones and sent them to Darui. The Cloud Man laughed, they want to defeat him with such a pathetic technique. Taking a katana, he was going to cut the clones, but unexpectedly for Darui, they exploded. The explosion hit the Cloudman hard against the wall. Deidara grinned and looked at his sensei. Akatsuchi nodded, giving what he could. The jounin himself stood next to Kuratsuchi. "Deidara, with this technique, I will finish the battle," and began to stick the figurine. Seeing the enemy's actions, Darui began to create the technique himself. In the arena stood two massive techniques, Dei and Darui. The first created himself, from clay he was 5 meters tall. A Cloudman from the lightning element was swarmed by double Black Panther. The jounin immediately became wary and defended their students. Shinobi from the verses of the earth stood ready. The two genin aimed their techniques at each other. Darui's technique collided and neutralized the walking bomb. Those present exhaled a little, but stood on guard. Kuratsuchi looked at her comrade with concern. Darui, that's it. Your techniques are useless against the elements of lightning. Deidara, seriously? Right now we'll look at it, and put the stamp, sheep, cats. Tsukuri spent a whole year on this technique, and it took half a year for it to resist Raiton. The huge figure began to swell. She was getting bigger and bigger. The shinobi built a huge wall. Deidara, start shaking in horror, shaking in fear, fighting in despair. Scream with all your might. For my art is. Explosion. There was a very powerful explosion. Before the explosion, Day walked away several meters. The walls of the building barely stood, the floor was completely destroyed. A huge dust rose. Darui didn't even have time to do anything, it was very fast for him. The shock wave nearly shattered the walls that the shinobi had built. Having removed the walls, those present began to look for the fighters. Kuratsuchi's eyes darted around to find the blonde. Temari used her fan to blow away all the dust. Now everyone could see the consequences of the technology. An unconscious cloud shinobi lay on the floor. And not far from him stood a blonde man without any outerwear. It was clear from him that he was exhausted. Everyone started clapping for the epic fight. Kuratsuchi clapped the hardest and smiled. Gecko approached Darui and checked to see if he was alive. Feeling that there was still a pulse, he raised his hand. Gecko, winner of Tsukuri Deidara of Stone. Deidara looked at his friends, smiling and showing a thumbs up. In a dark room, a man with dark hair was sitting on a chair. Like all members of the Uchiha clan, he has large, dark eyes. There are small folds under his eyes that give him a more rugged appearance. There was anger on his face. You will ask why. This afternoon he passed by Kushina's house. What he heard there, Fugaku was angry and shocked. He so wanted to destroy the house and tear the young man to shreds. The Uchiha didn't dare look. He wasn't going to make any extra fuss. He couldn't believe that his Kushina was making love to someone. Fugaku's faithful dogs stood on either side. Shinobi, what do you want me to do? Fugaku, nothing for now, and closed his eyes. I will kill this with my own hands. The rest of the fights were less epic. After the fight between Deidara and Darui, the shinobi had to rebuild the floor and wall. In the battles Temari vs 1010, Shikamaru vs Karui, Chuji vs Samui, Dog no Temari, Karui, Chuji won. All this time, the sand shinobi was releasing his lust for killing, and looked at everything with a manic smile. Those present stood a little further away from him, even his partners moved away. No one wanted to fight with him and is nearby. There were 2 genin standing in the arena. Crossing his arms over his chest, Gaara looked at his opponent with lifeless eyes. There were black bags under his eyes. The first thing that comes to mind is that sandstone does not sleep or does not get enough sleep. Attached to the back of the sandstone was a small gourd in which sand was stored. Gaara's signature symbol is the kanji for love on the left side of his forehead. His opponent was a guy with black hair and big eyebrows. He wore a green jumpsuit and had several bandages on his arms. It is clear from him that he is very happy about this battle. Thickface jumped up and shouted encouraging words. Just don't let me down. Show everyone the power of youth. It's not for nothing that you worked like a dog in training. Show your fruits. A copy of Lee shouted throughout the arena, only he was older, and with a jounin vest. Lee, I won't let you down, Guy-sensei. And showed his thumb. Some of the genin looked at these 2 people strangely. Are you sure they're not related? The thought flashed through the genin. Gaara was already tired of Lee's behavior and manner of communication. He couldn't stand loud people. With such representatives, Gaara spoke differently. And in his head he heard voices. Kill him. I want his blood. Do it for your mom. These were the words the sandstone heard from an unknown person. "Okay, Mom," Gaara said to himself and smiled creepily. His smile sent shivers down the examiner's spine. Everyone already knew who the winner would be in this pair. A shinobi who doesn't even know how to use ninjutsu against the son of the Kazekage, with the magnetism gene. Well, everything is obvious. Only Guy out of the whole crowd believed in his student. He had been preparing Lee for this exam since graduating from the academy. Guy chased Lee every morning, they ran around the village together. Training with Guy will definitely bring results. Lee, take your time. And caught the plug sent by Gaara himself. The sandstone only looked at the thick-browed one with hatred. He restrained himself so as not to attack his opponent, screaming. He wanted so badly to tear Lee into pieces. This weirdo will never win against Gaara, even if he trains all his life, but he can't beat Gaara. Gaara is on another level, Kankuro thought. If he's fast, then his blows are useless against Gaara, Temari thought with a grin. Gecko, if you're ready, go ahead. And gave the go-ahead. Lee immediately took off, raising a small cloud of dust behind him. With the help of sand, Gaara forced Lee to go back. Lee cursed to himself. Gaara calmly returned the sand to its place. And letting go of his head, he began to mutter something incomprehensible. Lee stood in an incomprehensible stance, only for Guy it was clear. Thickbrow looked at the sandstone, waiting for his move. But Gaara stood with his head released, sand appeared around him. Gaara, I want your blood. Quickly directed his sand at Lee. Seeing this, Lee jumped, but the sand caught his leg and sent him to the wall. Lee hit him and fell to the floor. The sand team laughed hysterically. Gaara did not want to let the enemy recover, and sent sand. Having made a somersault, Lee barely dodged. Quickly getting up, the thick-browed man ran towards Gaara. Lee struck quickly, but these strikes did nothing to Gaara. The sand simply protected the owner. Kill him. I want his blood. Gaara heard a demonic voice in his head. Gaara began to pester Lee. Lee had to retreat again. Having fallen on his fifth point, Gaara covered him with sand. That's all, Temari thought. Everyone already thought that the battle was over. And Guy just grinned, which is what the copy ninja noticed. Lee appeared in the air, tumbling. Gaara became even more angry. Gaara, Shikaku's spear, the user formed a spear out of sand and launched it with one strong swing. The spear flew at very high speed. Having made a somersault, Lee did not fall under the technique. Here's a clown. Gaara thought. Some time has passed. All the time, Lee moved at all his speed, all his blows hit the barrier. Only when Gaara began to attack did Lee quickly retreat. But one technique hit Lee. A small wound appeared on the side. The red-haired man himself did not move from his place. The young man stood with his arms crossed, his head hanging down. And the manic smile did not leave his face. Guy shouted words of encouragement towards Lee. Some gave Guy irritating glances. They wanted to watch the fight, not hear the man's screams. Jumping onto a huge statue. Lee looked at his sensei. He looked at Guy, waiting for his answer. Guy, take a picture. Thickbrow looked at his sensei in surprise. Lee, you said that I should only take them off when there is a threat to the lives of loved ones. Guy, there are exceptions. Lee's eyes widened, he could finally take them off. Now he will be able to show that a shinobi who does not know how to use chakra can achieve high results. Sitting in the lotus position, Lee removed his orange leg warmers. Weights, Kakashi thought. This won't help him anyway, the blonde thought. Having removed the unnecessary items, he threw them away. After the weights fell, a small crater appeared on the ground and dust rose. Everyone present was surprised, Gaara hid his surprise and stood with a stone face. Even the Hokage was surprised by this and stood up from his chair. "Gui, you seem to have gone a little too far," Kakashi said to himself. From jumping from the statue, Lee began to attack, the thick-browed man quickly disappearing from Gaara's sight. He appeared in front of Gaara and tried to hit, but the absolute defense barely made it in time. Lee began to disappear, and appeared in places where Gaara did not exactly expect. The Sonovites began to worry a little about their comrade. Gaara stood with a confused face, he could not do anything. The red-haired man certainly could not have predicted that Lee could do such a thing. He turned his head, looking at Lee. Here he appears right in front of Gaara, and wanted to hit, but the sand protected him again. Once above him, Lee began to spin and slammed his heel into the top of Gaara's head. The sandstone stayed on its feet. A scratch appeared on his cheek. "It's incredible that Gaara was hit," thought the mentor from Suna. "Guy, let the beast out." Lee, "Yes." And his eyes lit up with a spark, stretching out his arms, he shouted, "Open the first gate." The aura emanating from Lee became heavier, the stones began to levitate, a whirlwind of chakra appeared around the thick eyebrow. "This is the end." One jerk and Lee disappeared. Many miles later he appeared behind Gaara and hit him in the back. The young man flew several meters away. Gaara was already beginning to doubt his victory. "This is speed. If I had fought with him, I probably would have lost," thought Day. 10 minutes have already passed since the gate opened. All this time, Lee beat his opponent. Gaara was losing on all fronts. Lee didn't even let him use techniques. And Lee himself was already tired. His body is not yet accustomed to such stress. The sandstone was covered in gardens and dirty. Gaara stood on both legs, only willpower helped. But Lee was also no different from his opponent. Lee, breathing heavily, looked at Gaara in surprise. He didn't understand how his opponent was still standing. "With this attack I will end the battle," Lee said to himself. With the last of his strength, Lee appeared next to Gaara and punched him several times in the gut. Lifting it a few meters, Lee caught his opponent in the air. Having bound Gaara with their bandages, they began to fall, upside down, spinning as they did so. After hitting the floor, cracks began to appear. Everyone silently looked at the place where these two could be. Gaara lay on the floor, his head covered in blood. Lee was on one knee. The examiner stood and looked at the genin, waiting for one of them to give up. "It can't be." Gaara lost, thought Kankuro, and tightly gripped the railing of the stairs. "I won't lose," Gaara thought. Raising his hand, he muttered something very quietly. Lee was about to get up, but immediately felt the taste of metal in his mouth. And discomfort below. Releasing his gaze, he saw an object similar to a spear made of sand. From the outside, it looked terrible, the spear pierced Lee right through. Falling on both knees, the thick-browed man began to cough up blood. He restrained himself so as not to scream from the pain in his back. All the jounin and doctors ran to help the genin. The same cold Niji went to help his teammate. Looking at Lee and Gaara, who were disconnected, Gecko exhaled and raised his hand and said, "This battle is a draw." The genin were silent, they did not want to spoil this whole atmosphere. Everyone was surprised by Lee's strength, and even began to respect him. A shinobi who does not know how to use chakra almost beat the strongest sand genin. This definitely deserves praise. The shinobi brought the arena back to normal and began to continue the exam. Gecko, and so, the next fight. The following participants were called to the ring. A 15-year-old teenager with brown hair was coming down from the left balcony. Distinctive were his eyes. Like all Hyuga members, Niji had the Byakugan. It was clear from his look that he didn't care about this fight or his opponent. Hyuga heard that his cousin lost to the shinobi from the stone. As befits an older brother, Niji wanted revenge. Kuratsuchi walked down with a light gait. Walking up the stairs, the girl came up with a plan. She knew that she would never defeat a Byakugan holder in close combat. All that remained was to attack from afar or simply wear out the enemy. Niji looked at the brunette with obvious anger. It infuriated him that the girl looked at him with an obvious grin, because he always saw only fear in the eyes of his opponents. Straightening his back and raising his head, Hyuga looked arrogantly. Kuratsuchi grinned at his actions. She really wanted to kick this pompous turkey's ass. You know the rules. This is how the battle begins, said Hay-8. Before the fight, Minato ordered his subordinate to keep an eye on Kuratsuchi. If something happens to her, the fight must be stopped immediately. Minato didn't want to have problems with the stone. Like a true Hyuga, he activated his Dojutsu. Niji immediately ran towards his opponent. He intended to end the battle quickly, so he imbued his fingers with chakra to knock out his opponent's tenketsu. Kuratsuchi began to run away from Niji, throwing kunai at the same time. Niji couldn't reach the kunoichi. He even sent out chakra pulses from his body to knock her down. The brunette deftly dodged, performing acrobatic moves. Doton, flying stones, the girl said, and began throwing blocks. Niji cut all the stones without any difficulty. Having destroyed the last block, Hyuga continued to run after the girl. From the outside it looked very funny. This can't even be called a fight, just ordinary catch-up. 20 minutes have already passed since the start of the fight. Kuratsuchi only ran away from the melee, and Niji himself tried in any way to at least touch the girl. The kunoichi's plan had worked well so far. Niji's condition showed that he was slightly worse for wear, and there was a wound on his shoulder from Kuratsuchi's technique. This was the only time the girl was able to hit Niji. The kunai and shuriken are completely spent. The girl had to use only techniques, and she understood that she herself did not have infinite chakra and did not pour so much chakra into the techniques. Niji was angry, but hid it under a mask of indifference. Doton, stone golem, a small golem began to appear next to the girl. The monster began to run, breaking the floor underneath it in the process. Kaiten, her opponent, said and released a large amount of chakra from all points on the body, thereby creating absolute protection. After colliding with Niji's technique, the golem turned into sand. It was very easy for him. Stop running away. Fight like a real ninja. The guy shouted. He could no longer control all the emotions that had accumulated during the battle. I already fight like a real ninja. If you don't like something, give up and get lost. Kuratsuchi shouted back and, covering her hand with a layer of stone, hit the floor, on which cracks began to appear, dividing it in half, which is why Niji had to move aside again. Better give up. You don't have much chakra left. It's stupid to continue fighting when you're afraid of me. Raise your hand and I'll let you live, maybe, said Hyuga. Am I afraid of you? Do not make me laugh. Now we will see who will survive. The girl made a very difficult decision. She was going to go into close combat. She didn't have much chakra left anyway, there was no other way out. If she runs away again, she will lose due to chakra depletion. And the girl was not going to lose, especially like this. In close combat she might get lucky and win, so she thought. And she quickly began to close the distance between herself and Niji. Seeing that the girl began to approach, Niji did not even flinch and stood with a straight face. You finally decided to fight normally. I'll knock you out quickly for this, Hyuga said mockingly. Covering both hands in stone fragments, Kuratsuchi wanted to strike at the head, but Niji quickly dodged and began to very quickly hit the enemy's chakra channels. The girl received blow after blow, and it happened so quickly that even the jounin and the examiner did not have time to react. Hyuga blocked all the flows of tenketsu and, using the shoti technique, threw the girl away from him. Deidara jumped up from his seat and wondered, is Kuratsuchi okay? His feelings told him that he had to go save Kuratsuchi. The kunoichi lay there and did not move. The girl looked at the guy with fear and turned her gaze to Gecko, hoping that he would stop the fight. You see what your self-confidence has led to. It was necessary to refuse the fight in the beginning. You are no match for me, and it was obvious. For such a fight, I will kill you quickly.